Alright, what's up everybody? It's your boy Akeem and welcome to today's blog. We are on week 3 of the 2014 fantasy football season. I'm here to give you guys my starters and benchers for Sundays and Mondays contest. Starting at the quarterback position, Jay Cutler of the Chicago Bears. Now, if you guys do not already have him starting this week, you should. He's actually leading all scorers with 59 points over the first 2 weeks of the season. And this week he's playing against a New York Jets defense who allowed 41 points to Aaron Rodgers last week when they played against the Packers. And with the arsenal that Cutler has around him and skilled players, I think he should have a phenomenal performance. A quarterback who people have in question this week is Philip Rivers against the Buffalo Bills. Now, I think he's a player that you should start as well with, like Jay Cutler. Now, against the AFC East opponents on the road, Philip Rivers doesn't really perform too well. Only 12 touchdown passes in the last 8 contests. So Philip Rivers is going to have to some work cut out for him, but I still think he's going to have a good week, especially due to the fact that Ryan Matthews is not going to be playing this week. And they're going to have to rely more on Donald Brown and for the ground game as well as Danny Woodhead. But I think that Philip Rivers is still a good start. I think he's going to turn things around, especially with a great performance last week against the defending Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks and a great victory. 2 quarterbacks who I believe that you should sit this week, starting with Andy Dalton for the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, they're playing against the top-rated ranked passing defense in the league in the Tennessee Titans. And I think because of such a hurt receiving core, Andy Dalton's going to struggle this week. Now, let's talk about the receiving core. He's already playing without Marvin Jones and Tyler Eifert, but this week he might have an inactive receiver and star receiver in A.J. Green through a turf toe injury, and he might actually lose him this week. So he's going to have to depend on mediocre, if not worse receivers, and I think he's going to struggle this week. The second quarterback I'd like to talk about is Ben Roethlisberger of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, they're going to be playing at Carolina, and the nastiest defense in the National Football League, the Panthers defense. Now, I think he's going to struggle in this matchup. Now, last week against the Baltimore Ravens, he only had 6 points, and that was against Baltimore at Baltimore. But you're playing against the nastiest defense in the National Football League. Now, that is not my opinion. I think that is a fact. They have a great defense who have not allowed multiple touchdown passes in a single game since back in 2012, December of 2012, and because of that, I think Ben Roethlisberger is going to have a hard match for him, and I think he's going to have a bad game. Next position I like to talk about, the running backs. Starting running backs that you should use, starting with Rashad Jennings against the Houston Texans. Now, Rashad Jennings had 205 yards of total offense over these first 2 games, and he has proven that he is going to be the workhorse for that Giants running attack, and he's also a good, reliable receiver at running back. I think he's going to be having a good game. Next running back, Ahmad Bradshaw of the Indianapolis Colts. Now, he's pretty much proven that he is the better back between him and Trent Richardson. And they're playing against the Jacksonville Jaguar defense who allowed 41 points last week to running backs against the Washington Redskins. So he should be a good start. 2 running backs who I believe that you should start at the flex position are from the same team, Stephen Ridley and Shane Vereen of the New England Patriots. They're playing against the Oakland Raiders who allowed the 3rd most points to running backs in fantasy play. So as a flex position, you should start both Stephen Ridley or Shane Vereen. And last but not least, Niles Davis of the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, starting running back Jamal Charles is still dealing with the ankle injury. He should be out this game. And last week, Niles Davis posted 79 yards and 2 touchdowns, 2 scores running the football at running back. So they're going to be playing against the Miami Dolphins. I think he should be a good sleeper at running back this week. A couple players who I believe that you should bench this week, starting versus Seattle, Monty Ball of the Denver Broncos. Seattle actually held my personal running back, Eddie Lacy, to just 4 points, and they're actually hosting Denver. I think that Monty Ball is going to struggle in this matchup. Secondly, Frank Gore against the Arizona Cardinals. Now, over the first 2 games of the season, the Cardinals only allowed 21 points to running backs in total in fantasy play. I think that Frank Gore is going to have a rude awakening and have a bad game, so you should definitely bench him this week. And last but not least, Jonathan Stewart of the Carolina Panthers. Now, they're playing that he has a good favorable matchup against the Pittsburgh defense, but D'Angelo Williams should be back, is expected to play in this game, so the kind of carries is going to go towards D'Angelo Williams over Jonathan Stewart. And now, if you have to use Jonathan Stewart, go ahead and use him as a flex player. But I still don't think he's going to have many points this week because of the emergence of D'Angelo Williams. Now, a player that you should sit and watch this week, I think that you should just watch to see how he performs, is Donald Brown of the San Diego Chargers. A couple of people raised questions and concerns about Donald Brown if they should start him this week. No, you should not start him. Just sit and watch to see how he performs. He's very inconsistent throughout his entire career in the National Football League. I don't really know how he's going to par this week against the Buffalo Bills. Now, going to the receiver position, players that you should start: Andre Johnson against the New York Giants. This is a definite start for me because the Giants' defense is horrific. Calvin Johnson, Megatron just torched him to death, and I think that Andre Johnson is going to have a big game. Second player, Mike Wallace of the Miami Dolphins. As I mentioned before, he's actually been proving himself. He's actually had 2 back-to-back straight games of a touchdown reception, and this week he's playing against a Kansas City defense who been allowing a lot of points in receiving corps, and they have such a terrible and hurt secondary. Mike Wallace should definitely take advantage of that. And last but not least, a player that you should start, and a player that everybody, actually more people is thinking you should bench, is Pierre Garçon of the Washington Redskins. Now that Kirk Cousins is at the helm at quarterback, I told you guys in previous blogs before the season, if Kirk Cousins is at quarterback, Garçon is a top 3 wide receiver. I humbly believe in this. Now, Washington's going to be playing against Philadelphia, and Garçon struggles against Philadelphia, but with Kirk Cousins at quarterback, Garçon should blow this week. I think he's an excellent sleeper at the wide receiver position. Go right ahead and start him. I really believe in Kirk Cousins and throwing the football better than RG3, Robert Griffin III, towards Pierre Garçon. Now, a couple players that you should sit: Victor Cruz against the Houston Texans. Now, over the last 12 contests, Cruz only had just one 100-yard game. He's pretty much showing that a couple of years ago was not a fluke, but it was just more of a one-year wonder. He did have a decent season last season. I believe he had over 1,000 yards, but only one 100-yard game in the last 12 contests. He's pretty much losing the chemistry with him and Eli Manning. So that's a player that you should definitely bench this week at the receiver position. I have 2 more. Torrey Smith for the Baltimore Ravens. Now, he's going to be going head-to-head against Joe Hayden and the Cleveland Brown defense. I do not like that matchup. He's a player that you should definitely bench. Larry Fitzgerald of the Arizona Cardinals. Now, they're going to be hosting San Francisco, and San Francisco has a great defense, and plus Arizona's it's going to have to play without Carson Palmer for a second straight week, which means Drew Stanton's at the helm at quarterback. Not really feeling that. I think the Niners defense is definitely going to take advantage of Stanton in this matchup. So that's a player that you should sit, as well as his teammate in Michael Floyd. Headed over to the tight end position, a couple of tight ends that you should start: Zach Ertz against the Washington Redskins for the Philadelphia Eagles. Washington Redskins have a big time weak secondary, particularly at the safety position, and this is going to be a great opportunity for Zach Ertz to give you some valuable points. And Greg Olsen against the Pittsburgh Panthers, representing out of Carolina. Tight end Greg Olsen is actually an excellent target for Cam Newton, who had 18 points last week. Talking about Cam Newton, and Greg Olsen, I think he's a good red zone tight end. And last week against the Baltimore Ravens, the Pittsburgh Steelers allowed 2 touchdown passes to a tight end, to Owen Daniels, and I think that this is a great opportunity for Greg Olsen to have a great matchup. And another player that you should start is Niles Paul for the Washington Redskins against the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, last week he had 99 receiving yards and 1 touchdown against Jacksonville. I think he could have a great matchup against that Philly defense. Now, 2 players in particular that I think you should sit this week at tight end: 2 great veterans, Heath Miller of the Pittsburgh Steelers and Jason Witten out of the Dallas Cowboys. First, let's talk about Heath Miller. Now, he's definitely declining in his career, and I had more high hopes for him this week. I even cracked him in my top 20. I thought he was going to be due for a good year, but against that Carolina defense and the decline in his career, I think you should bench him, even probably drop him off your team. Now, Jason Witten of the Dallas Cowboys, he is not really having a good season. The Dallas Cowboys passing game is not really having a good season, so I think you should definitely bench him this week. Now, on the defensive side, last but not least, I'm going to talk about the defense. One defense you should definitely start is Houston's defense against the New York Giants. Eli Manning has been committing a lot of turnovers. I'm not really feeling the Giants passing game. I think that Houston's defense is going to blow up at least 15 points for you guys. And a defense you should definitely sit is the Jets defense against Chicago. It's particularly because of last week's performance against the Green Bay Packers. And I think they have better arsenal and weapons for Chicago and Jay Cutler. I think you should definitely sit the Jets defense this week. Now, the next time I'm going to catch you guys will be next week before Thursday night football game, where I will talk about week 4 of the fantasy football season. Thank you for watching today's vlogs from the Football Source. I'm your man, Keem McCall. Be easy.